You know that shirt you're wearing right now. It didn't just appear. It started as a totally flat piece of fabric. So how in the world did it become a three-dimensional thing that actually fits you? Well, the secret is in the blueprint, the pattern. And today, we're going to break down exactly how that magic works. So, here's our game plan. First, we're going to take a classic shirt and pull it apart piece by piece. Then, we'll get into how designers actually map the human body to create a blueprint for clothing. From there, we'll check out the essential tools of the trade, learn the golden rules that everyone has to follow, and finally, we'll see how this amazing craft has jumped into the digital age. All right, let's start with something we all have in our closets, a classic collared shirt. To really understand how it's engineered, we have to stop seeing it as just one thing. We need to see it as a collection of individual pieces, all designed to fit together perfectly. I mean, it sounds like a simple question, doesn't it? But really think about it. Behind this everyday object is a whole series of really thoughtful design choices. It's not just one thing, it's an assembly of parts that have to work in perfect harmony. So, what are these different parts? Well, at its core, a classic shirt has these 5 key players. You've got the collar, the front opening that lets you get in and out of it, the main body, that's the bodice, the sleeves, and of course, the cuffs. Every single one of these requires its own unique blueprint, its own pattern piece. Okay, so we know the pieces of the puzzle, but how do we get those flat pieces to wrap around a 3D, moving, breathing person? Well, it all starts with the most fundamental step, mapping the human body with a measuring tape. And I really can't stress this enough, this is the foundation. Everything that comes after this is built on getting these numbers right. If your measurements are off by even a little bit, the final fit will be off. It's the difference between a shirt that just hangs on you and one that feels like it was made just for you. Now, a custom tailor might take dozens of measurements, but for a shirt, these 5 are the absolute cornerstones. The chest gives you the overall volume. The across shoulders measurement, that defines the entire structure of the top half of the garment. And look at the sleeve length. It's not just from the shoulder, it's all the way from the center back of your neck. That little detail is crucial for making sure the sleeve hangs just right. That shows you the level of precision we're talking about here. All right, so our measurements are locked in. Now we're ready for the really cool part, creating the master plan. Let's dig into how those numbers get turned into the actual blueprint we call a pattern. So here's the big idea. A pattern is basically the bridge that connects the 3D world of a human body to the 2D world of flat fabric. Think of it exactly like an architect's blueprint for a house or a chef's recipe. It is the master set of instructions that tells you precisely how to cut out every single piece of the puzzle. But wait, what if you want to sell that shirt in different sizes? You're not going to start from scratch every single time, right? No way! That's where this incredibly clever process called grading comes in. You take your master pattern, let's say a size medium, and you use a specific formula to scale it up to a large, an extra large, or down to a small. It's the magic trick that makes ready-to-wear clothing possible. Okay, so you wouldn't build a house without a hammer and a saw, and you definitely can't draft a pattern without the right gear. Let's take a quick peek inside the pattern maker's toolbox. Now, this might look like a lot, but you can really just group them into 3 main jobs. First, you've got your drawing tools, things like a tailor's square for perfect 90-degree angles, and this amazing thing called a French curve, which is how you get those beautiful, smooth lines for armholes and necklines. Then, you've got tools to cut and hold the paper down. And finally, you have marking tools, which are all about transferring those important guide marks from the paper pattern onto your actual fabric. So, having the tools is one thing, but knowing how to use them, that's the real art. There are some core principles, some golden rules really, that guide the whole process and separate a good pattern from a truly great one. Now this right here is maybe the most important rule of all. It's called ease allowance. You might think a pattern should match your body's measurements exactly, but think about it. If it did, you couldn't breathe. You couldn't sit down, you couldn't raise your arms. Ease is the extra room that's built in for living life, for comfort and movement. So how much extra room are we talking about? Well, for a shirt, you typically add about 3 to 5 inches to the total chest measurement. 3 inches will give you a pretty snug, tailored fit, while 5 inches gives you something a little more relaxed and breezy. But, and this is super important, that ease isn't the same everywhere. Around the waist, for instance, you might only add a ½ inch of ease. That's just enough for comfort when you sit down, but not so much that you lose the tailored shape of the shirt. It's a really delicate balancing act.
Okay, now here is a brilliant time-saving trick of the trade. Since the left side of your body is basically a mirror image of your right, pattern makers don't waste time drawing the whole thing. They just draft half of the front and half of the back. Then, they place that pattern piece on folded fabric, cut it out, and voila, a perfect symmetrical piece. The main exception is usually the sleeve, which needs its own full pattern piece.
A finished pattern looks like it's covered in a secret language. And you know what? It kind of is. That grain line arrow is absolutely critical. It tells you how to line up the piece with the fabric's weave so the final shirt doesn't stretch or twist out of shape. And those little triangles called notches, they're like little guides to make sure you match up a sleeve to an armhole perfectly. This isn't just a shape, it's a full-on instruction manual.
So, all those principles we just talked about, fit, ease, markings, they're timeless. They're the soul of the craft. But the tools we use to apply those principles, oh man, they have gone through a massive revolution. Let's see how this old school art has moved from paper to pixels.
And this right here just says it all, doesn't it? What used to be done so painstakingly by hand with special rulers and paper is now done on a computer screen with a stylus. Need to change a neckline? It's literally a click and a drag, not a whole new redraw that takes hours. And remember grading for different sizes? With CAD software, you can grade a pattern into 10 sizes in, like, seconds. It has taken all these separate, time-consuming steps and rolled them into one seamless, super fast digital workflow. At the end of the day, a pattern is so much more than just a technical drawing. It's a language. It's a way of translating a creative idea from your head into a real object someone can wear. It is the silent, essential blueprint behind every single thing in our closets. And once you know the basics of that language, a whole world of design opens up. The only question is, what will you create with it?